Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes, all good. Loud and clear my side.
Great. How about Brendan?
Is Brendan in the room?
Hi, yes, I can hear you. Hi, everyone.
Great, Brendan. Do you have access to a camera so we can see your camera?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Tammy, are you available?
Hi, Brendan.
Tammy, are you available? Hi. Okay. Ben, if you don't mind starting, and we'll have Tammy enter when she gets here.
Perfect. Well, we got there in the end, and apologies for anyone there that's we're running slightly behind schedule, so apologies. The irony is that I'm here in the green zone, videoing into you guys in the blue zone. For whatever reason, logistically, we couldn't make it happen, but we're here now, and that's the main thing. Yeah, look, firstly, my name's Ben McCabe. I'm the founder of a mission-driven executive search and talent advisory firm that's designed to give. My work is primarily leveraging networks, bringing people together, creating change primarily with ESG-driven companies. And today, it's my great pleasure to, having met with Mark and Dena last week at the Museum of the Future for the Dubai Future Forum, I think we found this common energy and shared goal and vision for what we hope for the future. And today we're sort of exploring ideas linked to really like cities and action and cyber science and how we can envision a future where humans live in harmony with nature, fostering mutualism, symbiosis, and cooperation amongst all living beings in the environment. And I can personally speak from my own lived experience living here in Dubai, the sustainable city. But I think more importantly, if I hand over the mic to you, Mark, Dena, Brendan, and everyone else on the call, just to introduce yourselves.
Brendan, please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Brendan McGettrick. I'm the creative director of Museum in the Future here in Dubai.
Thank you. Is Tammy on the call? Okay.
I'll see her, unfortunately.
Tammy didn't make it. So this has been absolutely a wonderful experience. This COP is very beautiful. It's at the World's Expo that they had during the pandemic, and it's a beautiful location, bringing the world together. But we didn't get blue passes for all our panelists, so we have a true United Nations type of constellation. We have people in Brendan's, I presume, in his office or at home, and then we have Ben in the green zone, and Tammy is as well, and Dena and I are in the blue zone in the Global Innovation Hub. So just a little bit about me is I am a futurist. I wrote the Sustainable Development Goal Manifesto for the United Nations, and I was the futurist who started the Resilience Frontiers program with Dr. Yusuf Nassif. And the Resilience Frontiers has 8 pathways and also has a pavilion here at the UN. And today is really a focus on the futures, on cities, and on how we can have livable cities and move forward. And so, Dena, I'd like you to introduce yourself, please.
So I'm Dena Benning. I'm an artist, but also a visionary futurist, I consider myself. And I'm here also at the COP as the head of strategic alliances and partnerships for the Aloha Regenerative Foundation, together with Mark Buckley.
What we want to do is start out really today. So Tammy, who is still not on the call, hopefully she will find out. We heard that the internet went down in the green zone, but she is from unify.org, and it's one of the organizations that has been doing things around the world. They've activated 500 million people to do a meditation at the same time, and they've repeated this process several times, unifying people around the world. And so we have her specifically here in as well on this panel in the context of cities and how we unify cities in a regenerative and symbiotic way. I'm here to really set the stage for the context. Today is the 6th day in this pavilion, and the COP has different theme days, and there's definitely a city theme day. But there's a few things that we've misunderstood, and I think before we go into truly what the future is going to be and how we can get there, we need to really put in context how cities have always been built up and survived and gone to the point of collapse, to how sustainable development is defined. And that's really what I want to do here today. So throw out the question, what is sustainable development? We're right here in the middle of the blue zone at the COP, and you would think that everybody knows what sustainable development goal, not only goals, but sustainable development is. The funny thing is, not everybody knows. So I see Ben on the call, and his shirt has the Sustainable Development Goal logo on it, the 17 SDGs, bright colored on his Pangaea shirt. Well, a lot of people believe that's what the Sustainable Development Goals are, a bunch of bubble gum, bright colors, and they're like, oh, I like number 1, red, no poverty, that's the one I'm working on. First of all, that's where the biggest error occurs. It's impossible to work on one sustainable development goal without touching on all the others because they're tied together as a system. But more so than that, I want us to understand what is sustainable development. So I asked the question to many people, what is sustainable development? Oh, well, they say, yeah, it's equality for all, it's renewable energies, it's education, it's zero hunger, it's no poverty. And they're correct in a siloed way. But sustainable development is an ecological economic model. It's an economy. So some people in the audience would probably go, oh, I knew it. It's a Klaus Schwab conspiracy theory. I knew the Sustainable Development Goals. No. Don't misunderstand. Let me back up a little bit. What is development? Just regular development. The development of cities, countries, development of civilization. What is development? It's an economy. It's the built environment. It's what we call the high carbon scenario, or business as usual. It's how we have developed and built civilizations and cities forever. And that's an economy. It's a pretty big economy in our world, and it's been going in a very high carbon scenario. We've been using materials that aren't so environmentally friendly, but also creating heat zones and food deserts and things the way we build our cities and infrastructures. But it is an $89 trillion economy. So from December 2015 to December 2030, just the regular development economy will spend $89 trillion US from 2015 to 2030. And because of the pandemic and Brexit and the Ukraine war and also the Gaza and many of the other things that have gone on in the world, that number is probably even raised a bit more with the supply chain and the pandemic. And we know exactly how much money they're going to spend, and now probably even more because of all those catastrophes. But did you know the Sustainable Development Goals? They're also an economy, but they're an ecological economic model, and that will cost us, and we also know the dollar amount, $94 trillion US from between December 2015 to December 2030. And that's what we call a low carbon scenario. That means we use the circular economy. We use better building materials, better resources. We do things in a much better and more sustainable way. So just in case you didn't know, I'm telling you, sustainable development is an economy, and it's an ecological economic model. Well, most people don't know that economics, it's not just good enough to complain about all the bad economic models in our world, macro, micro, capital, extractive economics, but we need to know what are the good economic models that can replace all the bad ones, capitalism, extraction, micro, macro, classical economics. And just in the last 2 years, there's been more than 20 books written on ecological economic models. That's unheard of. Never before in human history have we had 20 books written on ecological economic models, let alone 20 in 2 years. And the other thing that most people don't know is that there's more than 32 ecological economic models in our world. And I bet everybody in the audience and everybody on the call and in the world can at least name 5 of those. I know that we've all heard and understand 5 of those ecological economic models very well. But I'm not going to make you guess. I'm going to help you. Have you ever heard of donut economics? I told you about one already, the Sustainable Development Goals, or Sustainable Development. How about circular economy? How about the well-being economy? How about the Buddhist economy? How about the feminist economy? How about regenerative economy? How about steady state economy? There are more than 32 different ecological economic models in our world, and wow, we already know about a lot of them. There's a great book that came out last year right before COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. It was called Earth for All by the Club of Rome. What a fabulous book, because when that book came out, guess what? It enveloped 5 ecological economic models. It took Johan Rockström and the Stockholm Resilience Center and the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research, Planetary Boundaries, which is an ecological economy. It took donut economics from Kate Raworth. It took the well-being economics. It took post-growth or degrowth economics. And then it took the best one of all, and that is the original 1972 Club of Rome book, The Limits to Growth. They did a World Model 3 at MIT to predict how we use our resources and how our world works with systems dynamic modeling. And they've updated the World Model 3 to current today's standards and as an ecological economic model. And they've combined all 5 of those into one single economy called Earth for All, and they're presenting it to the world as an ecological economic system. Now, that really ties to cities, but as I close, this most important part is what I'm here for today, and that is, did you know that there is an operating manual or a model for ecological civilizations and cities? And it's been around forever. There was a study done by NASA. The study was done twice. It was done in 2014 and again in 2018. It was commissioned by NASA, and it was conducted by Science and Nature. They wanted to ask the question, how many civilization frameworks, cities, cultures, civilizations have there been in our world before? What models were they running? Why did they collapse? And when they collapsed, what models were they running? So what I mean by that is they came back and they found, well, there was probably about 72 different civilization framework models, but out of those 72, there was a core 32 ecological civilization models. Early antiquity, Mesopotamia, Incas, Aztecs, Mayans, the Greeks, the Romans, the ancient Persia, ancient China. There was 32 civilizations. And all but 5 of those 32 civilizations collapsed because of ecological or environmental collapse, because of basic resources and infrastructure, energy, food, water. But all 32 of them collapsed because they were running the same model. And those 5 that didn't collapse because of ecological or environmental collapse collapsed because of disease, displacement, disruption. And that's why they collapsed. But all the other 32, all of them collapsed because they were running the exact same model. And that model is a hierarchy model. It's where one ruler, emperor, king, priest, someone, one person is at the top. Peasants, slaves, laborers, and farmers are at the bottom of that pyramid. And the interesting thing is, in all 32 of those civilizations, those indigenous, or those people at the bottom of the pyramid, peasants, slaves, laborers, and farmers, weren't local and indigenous to the Egyptians or the Persians or the Greeks or the Romans. They were always enslaved from other civilizations. They were brought or taken from some other place in the world and other culture and required to be enslaved to build up those civilizations. In today's world, we would call that they didn't have a buy-in to the system. They were building up a civilization that they didn't have the rights to live in and have ownership to. They knew that in the future, after it was built, they wouldn't get to call it home, that it wasn't theirs. They didn't get to live there. And so that's the key requirement in building up civilizations and cities, that you have a buy-in to that civilization, that you have ownership and know you can live at that in the end. And we found out that there's this unique thing called resonance in the build-up and design of that model that's non-hierarchical that we see around the world. And that's why we brought our other panelists in. Ben McCabe lives in the sustainable city Dubai, one of the first big major successful cities in the world. His kids go to school there and many other great things. His office is there. And I would just love for him to tell us quickly about that. And then I want to go to Brendan to tell us about what the Museum of the Future is doing.
Thank you, Mark. And yes, so I was one of the early adopters of Sustainable City almost 10 years ago now, which was a first of its kind, particularly in this part of the world. And yes, if you look at it now, there's probably a lot of advancements in technology in the way that you would plan from an urban design point of view that would take it to another level, but it worked. And ultimately, everything is built within a 15-minute walk. You know, it's pedestrianized, it's trying to encourage people to walk and cycle. There's a school there, as Mark mentions, that my 2 children go to. My office is there in the community, and we've got all of the retail, F&B, things that you need on a day-to-day needs basis, even pharmacies, there's office spaces. And for me, why it works so well is for a sustainable city to truly work, it needs to sort of really take into a number of different perspectives. You know, aside from it being powered by clean energy, you know, there's affordable housing, there's transportation links, accessible infrastructure, there's green spaces, and a real sense of community. You know, people are invested in the community, and in a region where it's quite transient, people come and go, they're on short-term assignments. You know, there are people that are thinking about what is left when they leave Sustainable City. You know, who do they pass it on to? And we even have like tree guardians, for example, people who will be owners of like certain parts of the community from a nature point of view. And when they leave the community, it's then handed on to ensure that that sort of plot of land or part of nature is then maintained to ensure, you know, the planet is restored, even though that we might not be still actually living in that physical space. And yeah, it's a wonderful community. I recommend anyone who is in Dubai and is here for COP for the next week or two, do try and get out there, because it's a great space, as I mentioned. And yeah, would love any sort of feedback if you do come and see any observations.
Thank you, Ben. Now to introduce Brandon, actually I would like first to make a short introduction, and that just before the COP28 started here in Dubai, there was the world's biggest gathering of futurists exactly in the Museum of the Future in Dubai. And Brandon is there, the creative director. And what we have also realized that for the cities of the future, or for any kind of development, we need also a vision and a design of those futures. And I would love to hear, Brandon, what is your take on that, and what is also the point of view of the Museum of the Future? For those of you who haven't visited it, is highly recommended to get in there and to get a glimpse of what the future could be. But what is the attitude of the museum and your personally as a creative director in this regard about the visualizing and designing the futures?
Hi, yeah, I'm very happy to answer that question. Yeah, essentially what the museum is trying to do is create environments which are almost like simulated futures. So when you come to the museum, there's 3 floors of experiences which are taking place in the year 2071. And we've tried to apply a lot of the techniques coming from theater, coming from traditional exhibitions and interactive experience to create something which feels real enough that you can place yourself within these possible futures and make a kind of connection to them, not just intellectually, but also kind of emotionally and sensually. A big part of what we've tried to do is emphasize experiences which are not really about media. They're more about the kind of overall spatial experience in the way that you're kind of connecting to a story. And those stories are partly reflective of the policy priorities and the sort of areas of highest engagement that Dubai and the UAE are involved in. The Museum of the Future is an initiative of Dubai government. And part of what it's trying to do is create a platform for people to think about the future and feel connected to the future in a way that is kind of beyond the typical kind of PowerPoint, white paper, magazine article format, to try to create a new format which feels a bit more personal and active. So a lot of what we've tried to do in the museum is kind of create possible futures that only really make sense with the participation and kind of buy-in of the visitors. Without them, it kind of remains unfulfilled promise or a kind of half-fulfilled idea. So a lot of what we've tried to do is create opportunities for people to kind of make a commitment or engage in a way that hopefully makes them feel that the future really needs them, because ultimately that's the message that the museum's trying to give, is that a better future is possible, but we need your help to get there. And in terms of like larger systemic issues, one of the big things that we've tried to explore is, because we have a 50-year kind of time frame, we can be a little bit more aggressive in terms of really imagining different systems and a different approach to not just kind of the way that an economy works, but the kind of values that are supporting that economy. So there's a number of moments in the museum where we present realities, or let's say possible realities, that are really looking beyond the sort of pure growth model, looking beyond the sort of free market, laissez-faire approach that I think most people, in a way, on the one hand, feel are limiting and kind of self-destructive at the moment, but also really struggle to imagine an alternative. So one of the things that's exciting, I think, about speculative futures and the kind of work that we and many others do, is that it sort of doesn't make an argument exactly for a new system. It simply creates an example of what that new system would feel like and how it could work within a specific application, and then invites people to explore that and to kind of feel part of that. And I think that's a really important piece, because at a certain point, there's only so far you can get with an intellectual argument, no matter how impeccable it is from a sort of research point of view, or even from a kind of emotional point of view. In the way, you need to mobilize as many different forms of communication as you can in order to get people to think beyond the reality that we currently have, particularly when, as most of us agree, I would imagine, the sort of, the status quo, or let's say if we kind of continue on autopilot, it's disaster. So we definitely need to somehow imagine interventions or radical shifts in perspective that could open up new possibilities and in a way create new demands from the citizens to governments and to private business. So anyway, that's essentially what the museum is trying to do in a lot of different ways. I mean, I could give specific examples, but on the highest level, that's essentially our perspective, and we've tried to create, hopefully, a kind of interesting interpretation of how that could look.
Thank you, and that's exactly actually what we were trying also in this presentation to point out, and it is the COP28, as all the other COPs since 2015 are turning around the Sustainable Development Goals, and they have been presented as a table with colorful pictures and some titles, but what I can very much agree with Brandon, and I have experienced as an artist throughout my work as an artist, but also as a brand and business strategist in advising companies and CEOs, executives at the highest level about envisioning futures. It is actually, surprisingly for me, the lack of imagination that people, even if they hear something, I have been surprised that people cannot imagine things. And then it comes even more important, the power of vision, because how we are supposed to realize a certain desirable future if we are not able even to envision it, let alone design it and then execute it. So this quote is probably familiar to everyone or the most of you, but it says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood. Divide the work and give orders, but instead teach them to yearn for the vast and the endless sea. And we want that also for our daily life and for the whole planet. So I would love here to make a small demonstration for you present here, but also for you online. Please close your eyes just for a moment and think of your home. Envision your home as vivid as you can. Think of the details, everything that you can remember, its smell, fragrances, the sounds, and how you feel within it. You have it? And now please, with a show of hands, tell me who has imagined this picture which you can see now here on the wall. Please raise your hands. Who had that image in your mind? One person? So that is exactly why it is important to have a unified vision. Because when we speak about the SDGs, many don't even understand what are we talking about, or everybody understands their own version. And Mark Buckley, who is here with us today, in 2015, just after the SDGs have been written, has written the Sustainable Development Goals Manifesto for the United Nations. Now we are running out of time. I will not read it for you, but you can find it online. But it is exactly, it starts with imagine a world where, and then go on. So it's very important to imagine, it's very important to envision, but also to create immersive worlds where people can have a direct experience of a possible future. Because of the lack of time that we have, because we have heard also that we are only by 15% of realizing the efforts, how are we supposed to come to 100% by 2030? We are here also today to say that it's very important to synchronize the efforts. And now we will jump a little bit. And the key factors to accelerate are to be able to scale and to accelerate the efforts, but also to synchronize the efforts. And in that regard, we have mentioned the principle of resonance, and I'm not sure if, Brendan, you're with us. Can you tell us, please, about, there is a magical space on the third floor, I believe, in the Museum of the Future, and there are different experiences. Could you tell us a little bit about specifically those who are connected to principle of resonance or the humming?
Okay, sure. So basically, the space that's being described is called Al-Waha, the Oasis, and the idea is that in this future where the exhibitions take place, we're responding to a kind of contemporary challenge or concern, which is really information overload and digital kind of dependency. So the idea is that this place in the future exists as a dedicated space where you disconnect from technology and you reconnect to your mind and your body and your sense of connection with other people. So all of the experiences that you have on this floor are all about reconnecting with your senses, reconnecting with your sense of connection to other people and your sense of larger transcendent ideas and feelings. So one of them, so the challenge with that is to kind of create interfaces and interactions that speak to people without language, without information, without digital displays, without any of that. So you have to kind of create a new language and a new set of tools so that people can have an experience without all the typical sort of information-drenched interfaces that we're used to. So one of the ones that we came up with is called connection therapy. All of the sort of moments or the different rooms in this floor are kind of therapies which are treating kind of information overload or digital dependence. Anyway, so this one is a kind of group humming exercise. So basically 6 people sit around a large table. The table has sort of animations on it that are responsive to sound. So then each person sort of sits there, and then there's a kind of microphone built into the railing around the table, and they're kind of instructed. They're led through a kind of group humming exercise. So each person hums at the same time, and when they reach a frequency that is kind of in harmony with each other, you see on the table a kind of feedback where a small kind of cloud floats up from where you are to a kind of center of the table. And as people reach harmony, these clouds combine into a single kind of united cloud. And then once that happens, there's a sort of cathartic moment where the room fills with light and a kind of dramatic sound plays, and then a scent is released from the railing where the microphone is. And basically our idea for that was to create a moment where simply by using your voice without language, without prior understanding, without a lot of instruction, you could create a moment of connection between people that sort of transcended all of the things that sort of typically maybe make people feel uncomfortable about participating in something with a stranger. And also there's a sort of obviously calming effect to the whole thing with the way that sound and light is used, and also the way that the scent that's released is designed to sort of relax people. Yeah, so that's one of the features in the museum.
And that was absolutely delighting me personally, because when we came to Dubai, we came with an idea to present a project which is dedicated to the acceleration of the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and beyond, actually to accelerate the positive action and transforming this world into a beautiful place as it is and could be. And the project is all around resonance and uniting our efforts, but also us as humans on a multi-level dimension. So we've come up, I'll just click through the presentation, just that we... So it's about uniting mankind and all the efforts of all the positive organization around the world into action through the principle of resonance. And resonance is actually a law in physics where one resonating body, that means vibrating body, amplifies its vibration by being connected to another body that can resonate with the same vibration. And then we know about different forms that are shaped by sound, the power of sound, and what Brendan said, the humming. We have come up with humming as the most universal sound that humans can make. It is beyond any language, beyond age, the youngest people, the oldest, even beyond any religion, race, gender, and so on. every human being make that sound when you think about something and you say, or you understand something and you say, and it's scientifically proven that the resonance that is created through this humming sound has positive effects not only on the person themselves who do that, but also on the environment. And that positive effect get amplified if we come into a collective action. So we have come up with a resonance.earth project. It is started as an app. It will be launched on Earth Day next year. An app, very simple one, where first we aim to connect everybody with a smartphone on this Earth and ask them to join this global experiment and global action to unify our vibration for positive action throughout 5 months, but then translate also on the physical reality and maybe start every public gathering, but also private gathering or business gathering with a collective hum together because of the benefits which Brendan already described, to bring it in as a kind of cultural element of sustainability, where first we come in tune with each other for a collective common vision of bringing good on this earth and uniting our efforts, and then amplify it as well. So in order to try it, not just to talk, and that's also the task of the app, not only to listen to sound, but to call you to action, your private action, but also to collective action. I would ask you now again to join me in a collective exercise, and please, the technicians, if you could play the sound video, please close your eyes. When the music starts, try to tune in with your own voice in a humming sound. Let's do this together for a minute. All together in the room, join us in this collective sound. So thank you very much. Don't forget this. Check out resonanceproject.earth. It will be announced on Earth Day. It will run until Peace Day next year, which is 21st of September, as preparation for the Summit of the Future, where we would like to present the results of this global experiment to the General Assembly and invite everyone to unite our good powers for the good forces and to create a positive future for everyone, and not only dream about it or enter them in a museum of the future, which is a wonderful place here in Dubai, but to replicate the Museum of the Future into a world of the future where every human being, every living being lives in harmony with its surrounding, with its counterparts, with everyone, and we all thrive in a better world than it is today. We have 4 more minutes.
Thank you very much, Dena. Can we watch that video as we close out things, or did it not work? Okay, all right. So then that's all we have, Ben. If you can close us out, Ben?
Absolutely. And Dena, thank you for that sort of perfect segue to sort of close us off for us. I think in the broader sense, clearly resonance can describe a deep and lasting effect or connection such as emotional, psychological resonance. And, that meaningful impact or relevance to the broader meaning, really referring to how we can evoke this powerful and lasting response within a collection. So the millions of people that we hope to bring together here. And I'm very, very inspired to sort of see how we can sort of really move this movement and connect. And as you perfectly described, people have to vision and envisage the same shared goal here. What I believe is, impactful for me or what I care about is obviously very different. So if we can collectively bring people together and envisage it through this resonance, and I think we've got a better chance of actually collectively getting to achieving a lot of these goals. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Mark, thank you for your very empowered speech at the beginning and giving us great insights and context behind the collective goals here. Thank you, Brendan, also for your having lived and breathed and visited the Museum of the Future many times. And again, as I sort of encourage people to visit Sustainable City, I think Museum of the Future should be on everyone's visit list while you're in Dubai. It's just such an inspiring place to be surrounded by great vision that this country is clearly trying to lay out for all to see. But I think, for people to be there, I think it will bring that, reality and future to life. So I completely encourage you to go there. So excellent work, Brendan, in executing what you've done there creatively.
Fabulous.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us.
We have a question in the audience, Ben. There's one question I see.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this interesting keynote and your visions you presented. I have one question for you, or one ask for you. For the Museum of the Future here it's in Dubai, I learned. I would like to...
I'm not sure.
Hello. Yes. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, and I would like to get in contact with this Museum of the Future, for the future. Of the future or for the future? Of the future. So I will send you a LinkedIn contact, and would be very nice if you answer me, and we can speak about, we work for many museums, and I like this idea, and maybe we can join them and share some ideas for this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Brendan. I wish we had Tammy here, but it was nice. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all.